What up, PB Casheville? It's your boy PB, and today we're going to be talking about that great sports classic, the Mighty Ducks. Hit it! PB Casheville, it's your boy PB, and we're running solo today primarily because, well, I'm going on a bike ride on our usual Saturday spot, so we are recording this Friday night, so that is 11/3/2023, so that's the reason why Cashew's not here either, because he was asking, hey, you know what? We got to record again. I'm off tomorrow. I'm off Saturday. But I said, you know what? I'm going on a bike ride tomorrow. So me and a bunch of folks from church are going to go check out the Armenia Rail Trail. I'll just also highly encourage everybody, like, if you can get out to anything that has like a rail to trail thing. So they're all over like the tri-state region. My favorite one's the one that's by the Sawmill River Parkway in Terrytown. Used to do that all the time. Really, really excellent. Really, really good. And so I would, especially now once the weather's getting a lot colder, and you may not get that opportunity to do that unless you want to ski the thing. You're probably going to miss out on stuff like that. So yeah, if the weather's really good, I encourage all of you to go out there and catch a bike ride. So I'm going to be hanging out with some buddies to do that tomorrow. That's the reason why I'm recording it tonight. So, but the next episode, our good friend Cashew will be back. We have taken him from his high and lofty place in Chick-fil-A, and we're able to pull him out to be able to do another episode next week. So that's something to look forward to. Other cool stuff. Okay, so yesterday I was off, so I got a chance to go to this place called The Hideaway in Ridgefield, and I got to have Weiner schnitzel. Now you're all probably thinking, what the heck is Weiner schnitzel? And I used to think it's something like bigger, better, crazier, but it's veal cutlet. That's really it is. But what was good about it is, like, it came with a lot of other cool stuff. Like, they had this really good cabbage. And you know what? Instead of me just saying about it, here's a cool picture of it. Looks a little something like this. I mean, look at that. That's red cabbage and two nice pieces of veal cutlet. And then also, here's a cool thing that they did at the Hideaway. The side dish that they had wasn't just anything else. It was like a potato pancake. So they got two of them. They're really good. And they also had this pork shoulder. I didn't get any pictures of that one, though. But my folks had it, and it was so good and so filling that thankfully they can finish it all. And guess who got to eat a good chunk of that pork shoulder? This guy. So it was really, really fun to be able to go to that. Shout-outs to the folks over at The Hideaway, Patrick and the rest of the crew over there. They're doing a great job. It's over on, I think, Grove Street in Ridgefield. Definitely recommend you guys check it out. The other thing, too, cool thing. I don't know if I mentioned this the last time that I talked to you guys, but I'm going to mention it again. If I mentioned it before, I didn't. I am going to mention it one more time, and I want you guys to check this out. This is steak poutine from Pippa's in Danbury, and if for those of you who are not in the know, and if you're not Canadian or never lived in Canada at all, you have denied yourself the opportunity to have something as good as poutine. Poutine is a mixture of French fries, cheese curds, and beef gravy mixed all together. Now, it's not disco fries, because disco fries is gravy, cheese, and fries slathered together. The thing that makes poutine is cheese curds. And so Pippa's, good buddy Lucas had a birthday not too long ago, and he said, where do you want to go? He said, let's go to Pippa's. So we went to Pippa's, and this place had steak poutine. It's normally just an appetizer. You share it with a bunch of your buddies when you go there, and oh my word, it was good, filling, and it was so good that needed to have another meal right after our volleyball game, and guess what we went to go have? We went to go get pipas. It was awesome. So shout outs to those two establishments, really good places. And it was, if you like going to Buffalo Wild Wings, it's the same kind of feel that you can get from both of the places. And good food and reasonably priced too. That was really cool yesterday in terms of the meals. The staff was friendly. It's super packed, so you might want to go a little bit earlier so you don't hit the dinner rush. So it's something highly recommend. Other cool things. Oh goodness, this was really cool. My uncle Al, who is a huge Jets fan, is also my fantasy football commissioner. He texts me and he's like, "Do you want to go to the Monday Night Football game?" I'm like, "Monday Night Football? Oh yes." So the last time I went, I didn't wear any New York's Jets gear. So I decided to say, hey, you know what? I need to go get a new jersey. So I go to the mall, and I go to Dick's Sporting Goods, and I'm like, I want a Quentin? It's a Quentin or Quinn? Quentin Williams, because I'm just a big fan of this guy, even when he was playing for Alabama. Hard-nosed, tough against defenses. So I was like, that's the kind of jersey that I want. I go to Dick's Sporting Goods, and it's nothing but small Aaron Rodgers jerseys. They're like $100 for this tiny Aaron Rodgers jersey. And so I said to myself, I don't know if I want an Aaron Rodgers jersey. Not that I have anything against Aaron Rodgers or Zach Wilson, for the matter, but I said, I don't know if that's the kind of jersey that I would want. I just didn't want to get a jersey for the sake of getting a jersey. So I go over to the Vintage, I think it's called Vintage Sports in the mall, and guess what? They have, I'm wearing it right now, but I got a better picture of it right here, a Wayne Chrebet jersey. Now, for those of you that are not in the know, who don't know who Wayne Chrebet is, well, you know who Julian Edelman is, right? Well, Julian Edelman is nothing, I think, compared to Wayne Chrebet. Not that he's not any good. I love Julian Edelman, but Wayne Chrebet was your typical third down receiver. Like, if you needed a first down, he did not care. He would get hit like crazy. In fact, the first New York Jets game I went to was the same matchup that I'm seeing. It was Jets versus Chargers, and Wayne Chrebet, that was also Wayne Chrebet's last game. And the last play that he did, because he got hit so hard, he got a concussion, and they called it quits, was getting a first down. So I'm rocking this Wayne Chrebet jersey. And shout outs to the guys. I think it's called Vintage Sports in the mall, because I was like, they've got to have like a jersey. But here was the cool thing at Vintage Sports. I just wanted to go in there trying to see what kind of jerseys that they have. And this was the only vintage one that they had. They had a Joe Namath, and though I love Joe Namath, man, I have a strong connection with Wayne Chrebet. I was just showing my dad the difference between this one and my old one, but I still love the old one because I've had that jersey forever, and I've worn that jersey everywhere. So, but yeah, those are the cool things that are happening so far. What else is going on so far? Okay, well, a few thoughts on a few things. While we're recording this, the NBA season's in full swing. I like how everybody's looking so far. I like how, and again, sometimes we don't give these sports updates anymore because by the time that some people might be watching this might be next year or something. But overall thoughts, I'm just glad that I'm starting to get back into the NBA. I'm hoping that there's not as much drama. But here is one thing that I am just trying to throw out there. I think that this is definitely true. And it's also very clear during the Jets game last week that this is the last week of October, and the Jets were playing against the Giants. So many people got injured. It just helped solidify that same thought that I've always had, that the current athlete is not as well conditioned or as resilient as the athletes of yore. Probably hockey players now are probably the most resilient, or maybe even rugby players are the most resilient. But it seems that in every single play, you're always seeing somebody that gets hurt or there's an injury timeout in order to stop the play just to see if that person's okay. I don't know if that's because it's really weird because the game is a lot not as physical. That's one. Two, there's much more advancements in strength training and so many other things. And yeah, We have so many injuries. And plus, there's load management. There's all of these other things that players from back in the day didn't have, and yet you still constantly have these injured players. And it baffles me that it's like that. So I'm hoping that tomorrow there's more football than injuries inside and that kinds of things. But it's just a thought that I've had. So maybe by the next time that I record this, there'll be a bit of a change in regards to that. So let's get to our topic of the day. So one of the things that I was looking at, especially trying to figure out things to put into our podcast while Cashew is away, we've had to focus on a lot of entertainment stuff. So I wanted to do a little bit of a throwback, and so wearing a throwback jersey and a throwback to everything else. And I should probably be wearing a hockey jersey, but I don't have $250 to buy a Chris Kreider jersey. And many of you don't watch hockey anyway who listen or subscribe to this podcast. So none of you really know who that is. But he is my favorite player in the Rangers. And you all know that hockey's love for me. So, but we're going to discuss the 90s kids movies. So, but of all the 90s kids movies, my favorite one, or not necessarily my favorite one, because I think everybody's 90s sports movie that everybody loves is The Sandlot. And we've talked about The Sandlot to death. But I think, and I didn't know this, I didn't realize this, but there is a movie that's a favorite of everybody's that's actually older than The Sandlot, and that is The Mighty Ducks. Now, you're probably wondering, why are we going to discuss The Mighty Ducks? Well, why not? This is so cool about The Mighty Ducks. When I was reviewing this, I was watching the movie in my room, and then all of a sudden my father comes in and he asks me, "Oh, look, it's The Mighty Ducks." Now, The Mighty Ducks is older than most of the folks that watch this. Now, there's a probably sprinkling of you that are probably older than The Mighty Ducks, but back in the 90s, you had this great formula of the 90s kids sports movies. It's very simple. You have a team that's a ragtag group of people, ragtag group of kids. Nobody wants them. They probably stink at the sport that they're playing. And then all of a sudden, some guy comes in who's also got a chip on his shoulder and they can't seem to get along. Then something comes in and kind of helps them bond together. Then there's a misunderstanding and then they get back together and then they win the game. That's a plot for so many different movies. That's a plot for Little Big League. That's a plot for Angels in the Outfield. That's a plot for Big Green. That's a plot for Little Giants. That's a plot for The Sandlot. Not plots for everything, but I think the OG movie that had this particular plot is The Bad News Bears. But we're not going to discuss The Bad News Bears because it's not in the 90s. It's back in the day, which I also did watch, but it was also a thing for a different day. But right now we're going to talk about The Mighty Ducks. So it stars Emilio Estevez. Fun fact, did you know that Emilio Estevez is actually half Filipino, which means that maybe he and I are related, which is kind of neat. But that also makes me related to Charlie Sheen, which I don't want any of that, his kind of crazy antics, because we all know how crazy Martin Sheen is. But, no, Charlie Sheen. Martin Sheen's actually pretty cool. Martin Sheen was great in a lot of different movies. So, Emilio Estevez, he plays Gordon Bombay. So, we all know the plot line of Mighty Ducks. Gordon Bombay gets into some trouble with the law, and he's forced to go and coach a hockey team in Minnesota. And he really hates it because his hockey's left a sour taste in his mouth because he missed a penalty shot in Pee Wee League, and I forget his name, Lane something. The guy who plays the coach Riley in this movie. He's also in My Cousin Vinny. He's the one who goes identical. He's the other lawyer in that movie. But he's also in Lois and Clark, the original Adventures of Superman, which is also very cool. But apparently the expectations were so high that his taste for hockey just got and so the fact that he has to coach a hockey team was just worse for him. But eventually he sees that this team could really use some help, and at first he just tries to do it for compliance, but then he meets up with Hans, who's played by the same guy who plays the bad guy from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and he decides to say, "Hey, you know what? I do love this game, but it's a shame that I've grown to hate this game," and he finds it himself, learns how to teach them the game, learns to love it once again. But then there's a misunderstanding. There's rift between the team, and then really young, what's his name? I forget his name. Joshua Jackson, really young Joshua Jackson, plays a kid named Charlie Conway. He's like, no, you got to get us back together. Brings them back together, and they face off against the Cobra Kai of hockey teams, which is the Hawks. And as a result of that, there's a lot of things that happen, and eventually, boom, they defeat the Hawks. Yeah, spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen this movie already, you are probably 4 years old and don't know about it. But yes, they won. But the story of getting there is always the more interesting thing. Now, could talk about it for a really long time, but here are my PB 5 reasons why I think that Mighty Ducks is very unique. Number one, it's a commentary on class struggle. Yes, I went there. Can you actually believe that? Yes, and I was looking at this. I got to figure out something unique about this particular movie. And yes, it does talk about class struggle. So yeah, there's a lot of movies that talk about the rich and the poor, and then the struggles and disparities between the two. The Sandlot goes through that. Also, like the really skilled and the not so skilled. Little Giants talks about that. But as we can see in this movie, it's the Ducks, they live in like the tougher parts of Minnesota, and though their parents are able to afford, like, they put their kids in the league, they don't have the same support as the other teams do. It's like, if you take a look at it, they have to practice on a pond, and everybody else gets rink time. They've got uniforms, they've got equipment, but they don't really have that much support from everybody. But they're still scrappy, but perhaps the only reason why they can't succeed is because nobody's giving them a chance or wants to invest in them. That's always that great. That particular lesson is the environment what causes people to be how they are, or is it a lack of just drive? But what's clear here is that they do have the drive, just don't have the same opportunities that they do because they don't have the same resources that they're supposed to. So it's cool that the law firm that Gordon Bombay works for is like, hey, you know what? Let's help these kids out. And at first they were like, I don't want to really do that. But when they say, hey, you know what? It really shows that you're a force in the community, you're doing some good, and it does make a huge difference in these kids' lives. They play better hockey, they have a love for the game, and they definitely improve in terms of that. There is a great conflict also between the rich and the poor. There is one player on the Hawks named Adam Banks, and he's more well off than the kids, but because of the district lines, he's supposed to play for the Ducks. And so now you got this guy, and then the term is cake eater. This well-to-do kid with a silver spoon now has to play with like what's maybe considered like the poorer folks and the not so privileged folks. But the awesome thing is that the parents in it are really, really tough. The guy who plays the Jesse Smollett is in this movie, believe it or not. I was like, oh my goodness, that's Jesse Smollett. That's the guy who completely lied that he got beat up. And the guy who is also in The Sandlot, who plays I forget his name, but he's in this also. He plays Jesse and Terry. Their dad, like it says here, there's one part there where he works like 2 jobs in overtime just to make sure that these kids stay in the league. That's tough. And then his mom, what's his name? Joshua Jackson's mom, she's like a waitress, and so she's probably working triple shifts to just make sure that everything's okay. So it shows like the hardworking class of people, and that they're still trying to make ends meet. But if they just got a little bit more support, they would be able to succeed in terms of it. Point number two, diversity. This is an interesting thing that I never really noticed before. In the Mighty Ducks, the Ducks are the only team that's definitely diverse. They're the only team that, at first glance, they're the only ones that have different cultures. Okay, there's no Asians represented though, so that's kind of like, what heck? what's up with that. But they did get him and get an Asian person in the second one. I think Kenny Wu is the guy that had, and but the fact is, you got a very diverse group, and you also have girls on this team. When you take a look at the other teams, they're all white dudes and all white dudes. That's it. And so there wasn't as much the diversity card. I don't know if there was like diversity, but it's true. It's interesting that it's a more diverse group that that they represent. Yeah, they're tougher and more rough around the edges, but at least there's more diversity in terms of it. So that was something I never noticed. I was like, that's true. They're the only team that is actually very diverse. Third thing, crazy illegal hockey plays. There's two guys from TSN. TSN, if for those of you not in the know, is the Canadian ESPN, but I think they're practically the same thing now. So these two guys on TSN, what they did, and if I can find the links to it, I will put it in the comments, that talk about all the different penalties in the Mighty Ducks. And what is interesting, the most famous play in the Mighty Ducks is the flying V. And it's illegal, primarily, and it's also the stupidest play. And I think there's even a video of the cast of the Mighty Ducks doing the flying V, and they say that's the reason why it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Well, I'm no hockey whiz. I do love the game, but one, it is offsides, because sometimes there's guys that are crossing the blue line before the puck actually crosses, so that's immediate offsides. As these guys on TSN explained, like every single person, and actually not only those guys, but dang, forget his name. He's on the Maple Leafs, and he's really, really good. That guy, him, you know him, you know who I'm talking about. He actually did analysis of that too, but there's so much interference. In fact, that's the major penalty that people commit. You can't just go and throw your body on a guy that's not involved in the play, or else it's called interference. And there's tons of that in all of the Mighty Ducks movies. But the flying V, I had in my notes, Austin Matthews, that's it. Austin Matthews, like in an interview with GQ, said that, yeah, it's an illegal play. And plus, here's the other thing why it doesn't make any sense. If you're going and you've rushed everybody in one particular spot, if that gets blown up and beat up and wrecked, there's nobody in defense, and it's an easy score. But that's what makes it interesting to do. It's fantastical, and that's how kids' movies back in the 90s used to be anyway. You'll do this really weird, crazy play. As any of you that will have seen Little Giants, they do the Fumbarooski, and they call it the annexation of Puerto Rico, which is interestingly, one of the teams on my fantasy football league is actually named the Annexation of Puerto Rico. And the Annexation of Puerto Rico was an actual play that they did run. I think the Titans or the Steelers or somebody actually ran that play in an actual game and won the game as a result of it. So crazy hockey plays. Crazy hockey plays are what makes it pretty cool. Number four, interesting legacy. Now, here's how many fictional sports teams that you have seen in the movies, okay, actually created their own hockey team or their own professional team. I can't think of one. There are no Bad News Bears in baseball, even though you may think the Cubs are one. There are Giants in the NFL. In fact, they were the ones they were named after the team in the movie. But what is interesting about the Mighty Ducks is this. Mighty Ducks is the only fictional sports team that actually became a real team that actually won a championship. That's so cool. Unfortunately, the Ducks no longer are part of Disney. They sold them in 2004, 2003, I think. But they still have a lot of the elements. The same mascot that they had from the Disney days is still the mascot to this day. It's named Wild Wing. And a lot of their jerseys are still that old throwback jerseys. It's really cool. And what's cool is that it still has that particular legacy. And it's interesting that a lot of hockey players now, many of them were, my age, and then they started watching hockey, and it's actually one of those movies that definitely got them into the game. So that's it doesn't teach you hockey. If you really want a more realistic hockey movie, I would go with Miracle, because Miracle's really good. And I've already done a video of that. Guys, I've been clicking and subscribing on it, but I think it's a couple episodes down, so check that out. But really, it's really cool that this team not only became a professional team, but it became a professional team that won the Stanley Cup. Today, now though, they're on a bit of the rise, but not necessarily in the same vein that they were before, and it's definitely an interesting legacy. And plus, the movie is still a favorite of both hockey fans and not hockey fans alike. And it was interesting. My dad was able to identify it immediately. Oh, look, you're watching the Mighty Ducks. And that's one of the interesting legacies. Now, number 5 is a personal reason. It's one of the major contributors to my love of the game. Now, when you move to Canada, you have to not learn hockey, but learn about hockey and understand it, and just grow to love it. I'm coming from a country that does not have ice at all, and I don't even know if there was ever a skating rink that I ever been to before I moved to this hemisphere. So hockey was something that I have no clue of. And so the Mighty Ducks, since it's a Disney movie, was one of the... I just picked it up during... Yes, kids, this is something that's going to date me even more. Blockbuster Video. Yes, Blockbuster Video was the thing that my father and I would always do on Friday nights after school. Go to Little Caesars, get 2 Little Caesars pizzas, which you can still do today, which is awesome. Go to Blockbuster Video, 1 video game, 1 movie, and that's your weekend. So one of them was the Mighty Ducks. I didn't understand hockey. I didn't know the rules. And this doesn't really explain the rules, but kind of gives you a little bit of the basics and the mystique of it. And so that's one of the things that I liked about it. Back then also, you didn't have any other movies to teach you about hockey. At this particular point, the only movie, and many reviewers have mentioned this, the only movie at that particular time that really talked about hockey, at least that was very popular, was Slapshot. Now, all of you adults out there that have seen this movie, it's probably not the best movie that a 9-year-old should be watching. And also, disclaimer, don't watch that, kiddos, because it's not really good. Watch something like Miracle if you really want a hockey movie, or the Mighty Ducks. That's good about it. And so you watch it, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Then it becomes the gateway into it. And for me, I started out as a Montreal Canadiens fan, but because I lived an hour from Toronto, you had to root for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so to this day, though I am a very hardcore diehard Rangers fan, I do still have a soft spot for both. And you can't. It's actually illegal. I think that there is something in Canadian and hockey law that you can't like both the Maple Leafs and the Canadiens. In fact, there is a book called The Jersey. And any Canadian hockey fan, or actually a hockey fan, will know about that, where the disdain that the Maple Leafs and the Canadiens have for each other is probably a bigger rivalry than anything in sports. So So I don't think that I can say that. People won't agree with that, but I still have a soft spot for both of those particular teams. So, the Mighty Ducks, have you seen it? What did you think of it? Like and put your comments below. Is there any other hockey movies that you think should have probably gotten a nod besides this one? Or also, what was your favorite '90s sports movie that showed you like that a little bit of hard work and team spirit and overcoming the odds helps you win the day? What's your favorite? Put it in the comments below, and also subscribe to the channel, and hopefully that you'll enjoy that. So as we say every week, we don't know you, but we love you, and there's a God above that does. I'm PB. Peace out, PB Cashewville.